back, the farther you go back in time. These are actual facts. The media doesn't play on this because, if they tell you everything's better than it's ever been, why can't that be news? Why can't organizations that want money for crime tell you, well, crime's going down every year now? And these are the actual FBI stats. Look at these stats. Crime going down. Look at all this. It's just going down and down and down and down. Why do we think it's the most violent times in history? Generally speaking, on planet Earth, and in America especially, crime is down in every category. Every category. These are FBI and government stats. So be careful if somebody's trying to raise a lot of money for crime, because what's happened is, and forgive me for saying this, but it's absolutely true if you want to take the time to check it out yourself, the do-gooders have become part of the problem. So many do-gooders are making money off the Iraq and Afghan wars, telling you it's for children, telling you it's for this, telling you it's for that, telling you they're going to build schools. There isn't much evidence of that. Think about this. If you're trying to cure disease and you do cure it, what happens? This is human nature. It happens everywhere. So the truth, the light has told me, is always in the middle of everything. It's not at the extremes. The extremes are not truth. They're exaggerations. So you've got Greenpeace telling you it's terrible, and they've made many mistakes. You've got Exxon telling us it's oh so good. The truth is in the middle there somewhere. And the stats are showing that we are evolving quite quickly into a very peaceful world. And again, forgive me for saying this, but stats show that most of the high death rates come still to this day from tribal wars, not in civilized countries. Rwanda, for one. The Tutsis and the Tutus killed 1 million of each other. Tribal wars are still the biggest killers, but even that's lower than it used to be. Interesting. So countries that don't have a good centralized government that can manage these things, these tribal wars, the tribes are all still killing each other to this day. Turn on the news, turn on the internet today, you'll see who's killing who. Look at who's killing who. Afghanistan and other places, this is tribal countries. What are we doing? This is tribal stuff, I don't know why we think we can go everywhere and they're going to become Democrats or, Republicans. Whoa. Another thing is, this is something the light showed me. To this day, the greatest killers on earth of humans and animals are these guys. Pretty scary, huh? When I was with the light, I asked about evil. And the light showed me something like this, and I saw a monster. And the light kept reducing it. This is the same thing, the same killer. This is the same killer. Mosquitoes, to this day, and historically, have been the causes of more pain in animals and humans and more death of animals and humans than all human wars put together. And when the light did that and showed me the mosquito, the light said, is the mosquito evil? Then the light showed me my cancer cell and said, is the cancer cell evil? You see, we have this weird conceptions of what good and evil is. If anything's evil, it's these guys. I often say, had I been brought in as a consultant for the creation of this planet, I would have left a few things out, but they didn't call me on that one. I wasn't brought in on that job. So when you think humans are so bad, wait a minute. The earth itself pollutes more than we ever will. We need to do everything we can, and I'm going to get into that in a minute, what's really going on there. And the next statement may be even more shocking to you, and that is, human beings are the most graceful and giving beings on this planet. We are the grace of this planet. There's a thin line that is humanity between what's under your feet. There's a war going on under your feet right now on the microbial level with no law. There's a war going on in that grass and in those plants right now with no law, kill or be killed. Human beings are this thin thread between all of that brings grace into this planet. Human beings have been good for animals, generally speaking, and better so now than ever, and good for the planet. I don't know why we have this conception we're bad for the planet. We are not. We are the grace of this planet. Most human beings on planet Earth, if it was legal to kill you, if there was no law, and it was karma-free, wouldn't hurt you. They would not hurt you. That's grace. It's only when you starve them, bomb them, and torture them that you got one of the most dangerous beings on the planet. So why do we do that? Why do we abuse the grace of the planet? You see? Each and every one of you, no matter what level you're at, no matter whether you think you're a good person or a bad person, you are grace. We are the grace on this planet. Think about that. And this grace goes on into the modern world. We Americans give more to developing countries than anybody on earth. And since the 1850s, when this is really measured, true philanthropy started. It's grown and grown. Philanthropy's grown in leaps and bounds. There are more young people becoming heads of philanthropies now than ever before. Young trustees. Our children are becoming really cool. And look at this. This is how much money all these different countries are giving. Everybody's giving. It's a giving. Humans are giving. It gets distorted by governments and politics and bad corporate decisions. But that's all that we can deal with. But even despite all of that, it's growing. Philanthropy's growing like it's never been before. And it's all about taking care of each other. That's what's really going on. It's not what you see on the news. What you see on the media is Maya. It's illusion. It's the illusion. If you're only seeing it through that one little TV channel, like looking at the painting 1 inch at a time. Look at what's really going on the planet. What's really going on is something amazing. Let's take a little look at our modern world, because this is very, very important, and we've all participated in this. And there's some very interesting patterns that resulted from very messy beginnings, the one of which is the Industrial Revolution. Messy start. But if you haven't looked at it in the big picture, you don't know what was accomplished. We take it for granted, and we expect more from our technologies. We expect more and more. We want the new iPhone. We want everything new. We have more technologies go to the patent office than we'll ever use. There are technologies to the Civil War that are still amazing that we aren't using. Amazing. They had fans that worked on a candle and were quite powerful. I've seen one, actually. A fan, like electric fan. There are so many ways to do these things. We get stuck in a rut. Oh, we can only do it with electricity, or we can only do it this way, or we can only do it with gas. Complete illusion. Complete illusion. The Industrial Revolution was an incredible paradigm shift, one of the most important humanity and the evolution of Gaia has ever experienced. And it was messy. Remember Pittsburgh, the steel smog, you know? Look at Pittsburgh today. Look at England that was all polluted. No fish, no anything. All these are clean now. There's fish in them. All the tributaries are cleaning up. This is how, if you're here now, you most likely, most of us have not been Cleopatra or Julius Caesar. We've been these guys. We've been carrying the barges and fanning them. That's most of our incarnations. So you were most likely here than on the throne. I see people that get past life regressions. They've been kings for 27 lifetimes. I go, wow, that's good karma. But things. So compare what's going on today. People talk about pollution. We're actually not as polluted as we were then. Not even as polluted as the 1930s, because you had this kind of stuff going into the 30s. It was amazing. Not that long ago. The Industrial Revolution, we invented these machines, and we became part of the machine. We are and now evolved into industrial animals. That's all we know. Many of us lost our parenting skills. I mean, many people live now by one of them working and giving all that money to a stranger to raise their child so they can work to raise the money to raise the child. You know. Now, this isn't negative. I mean, this isn't evil or anything. And I'll tell you why. Because all of this, every machine ever built by a human, you've heard of spirit in the machine? Our spirit is in all of this. Spirit is in everything we've ever made. And you've heard things about never buy a car made on Friday. You know, that's spirit. Spirit can go both ways, you know, and don't do a lab test on Fridays. People just want to go home. But our spirit is in every machine ever made. And we have put so much spirit into this world through our devices. What really ended slavery? You think it was the do-gooders? Well, they were trying to help. They meant well. That didn't end slavery in the world. Because up till this time, to be rich, you had to have slaves or serfs. It was the only way you could be rich. and you had to have lots of them. So you kept people as slaves, and you kept people as serfs. And America was one of the last countries in the world to free slaves, by the way. What really freed the slaves, what really did it, was in 1807. The first machines of the Industrial Revolution began to replace slaves, and you could actually be rich without slaves. The machines freed us from something that would have gone on and on. Our machines freed us. And a middle class and a leisure class evolved. So this is very, very important to understand. Very important to understand that this period, which is a bump in human history, because all of our past has been non-industrial, our future is really not what we call industrial. This Industrial Revolution was a blip on the screen that did something amazing. Still gets me to think about it. People of the future look back on us as the giants of history. Is that a stretch? They look back on us as the giants of all of history because all of our blood, sweat, and tears freed mankind forever. They can't even believe what we put up with, what we went through, what we gave up to get here. And technically, the Industrial Revolution's been over since 1975. 1975, information made infinite more money than steel. So that part is over. We accomplished that. This was something, and it's amazing because until this period, nobody could be free. Nobody could be free. It would be impossible to have societies without slaves and serfs as we knew it. There would be no middle class either. We tend to think, us that live here now, who the future views us as the giants, they can't even believe how we pulled this off. And we don't even know how we did it, actually. But we never gave up. We never gave up having children, working, paying our bills, and trying to do the right thing. We never gave up. Think how heroic it is for you to get up every morning and go to that job, to go through that traffic, to do your job, to raise your children. This is heroic stuff. They don't know how we did it. We tend to think of ourselves as this ugly worm, ugly old caterpillar on a tree eating everything it can see, you know? And we are again, I'll remind you, we are the kings of metamorphosis. We are the kings of that. And that's why we don't even know what's about to come. We can't even see it. We are going through a metamorphosis, and Industrial Revolution, and all of this was a part of it. And we are about to become a new creation that we ourselves almost can't even imagine. Sometimes in my seminars and workshops, I ask people, we do an exercise where I ask you to think about your next lives where you don't have to work, where survival is not the issue. And people get stunned. It takes them a while to even think about that. It's time to start thinking about it because it's coming on now. What the great minds of our time know, our government knows it, the industrialists know this, is that there will never be as many jobs as there was once before. So we really have to recreate this world. Those of us that made this world, not the people that just got all the benefit. We made this world, we made the future. So the future is not about work. There'll always be those A-types, you know, let them have at it. But just as the machines of the past freed us, artificial intelligence, our robots, all of that free us all. In the future, you don't have to work unless you really want to. It's not necessary. Replication technologies, all of this sort of thing. Money's not an issue. Energy's not an issue. That isn't the issue. Because from the beginning of time, from the first life on Earth to this moment, we have been totally consumed by survival. It rules. Haven't you witnessed that in people you know? Get into a survival issue and they change completely on you, on money or whatever. And I get really emotional about this because it is so important for you to understand that all of this is about to pay off. And in cosmic time, it is the metaphorical blinking of an eye now. And I can't tell you what to believe in, but I can tell you whatever you believe in. Now's the time to believe in it more than ever and do something. whatever, small or large, because we have access to everything like never before. And this new creation is not about worker survival. The next greatest step mankind will take is not spiritual. We've done that. Just like I said, remember what you already know. If you want to be really intelligent, just remember what you already know. You know this stuff. You know God. The next step is when mankind en masse transcends survival. Because right now, and from the beginning of time, we have been compromised by survival. It's compromised integrity and everything. You know, integrity is a very expensive thing. Go tell your boss what you think. See what that gets you. So we're compromised by all of this. Even relationships are compromised because we can't tell each other the truth for one reason or another. You know, property usually and that kind of thing. So once we get out of this, we can be this new creation that can express the truth in all ways. We can be someone that isn't compromised by having to sell my life to someone else to have a life. You see? That's not what the future's about. And we're well on the way to transcending survival. In fact, look at this. How much better are we now? This is just since the 1950s. And these are stats you can all check me out on. This is not just visionary stuff. Life expectancy up 1/3. Some people will try to say this is the most polluted times in history. Well, why are we living longer? And it's not vitamins. It's not really health food. You know, we've learned some things, like clean food, doctors washing their hands. We've learned some simple things. And it's just going to keep going. Now we're looking at telomeres, we're looking at anti-aging, and the world is opening up to us. So life expectancy up 1/3. Per capita income, generally speaking, in the world, because you can't just think about you as an American. Because to judge the world by how crappy your life is or how good your life is isn't a good way to judge the world. You know, and I've been on both ends of that, more than I like to think about. But so you can't judge the world by just your life alone. Look at the whole world. The whole world is doing better than ever. Mortality rate down 2/3. Population growth, and I'm going to get into this with you, is going down all the time. It's crashing, and there's a reason for it from the Gaia perspective. I said back in the early 80s, we would never overpopulate the Earth. It would be impossible for human beings to populate the Earth. And I'm going to show you why in a minute. So think about that. That's almost too much to believe, isn't it? Since 1975, there's some incredible news that's never happened in the world before, whole history of the world. Since 1975, it has been technically possible, and technically is the key word. Technically means you can really do it. It doesn't mean it's a vision or a TV episode. Technically means you can actually do it. You can actually do it now. Since 1975, we have been at a place in the world where we can feed, clothe, comfort, educate every human on planet Earth without destroying the Earth. It's never happened before in the history of the world. And this is what the people of the future are amazed about. How did you get through all that? How did you get through all of that history to get to this point? It's very, very important to understand. Another thing is, the wisest people who have ever lived are living today. I don't know why we think the ancients were wiser than us. There's no evidence of that when you really study it. They weren't good ecologists at all. The slash and burn farming, the denuding of the rainforests were done before we ever showed up. Check it out. NASA's proven that. The rainforests were denuded for about 400 years in the major. Why do you think the Mayans collapsed? They denuded the environment. There wasn't even pollen seeds, which means there weren't even trees. And look at it today. Check it out. So the wisest people that have ever lived today in all cultures, and our children are smarter than ever, no matter what you think they're doing. You know, and many of you, have you noticed that your children don't seem to be that interested in working? You kind of notice that pattern? Well, don't be so hard on them. They're the prototype human beings of the non-industrial society coming. And they're doing things. They're doing things we never did. They're creating relationships and families beyond bloodlines that we couldn't imagine in our old cultures. We were stuck to our bloodline families, stuck to all of these kind of things. The kids of today are communing. They're getting smarter than ever amongst themselves in ways that we may not be able to understand. And the old generations have always been this way about the future generations. I can imagine two old guys standing in front of the pyramid 5,000 years ago saying, these kids today will never build another one of these. But who needed to? We're building subatomic pyramids. Who needs to build another pyramid? So when someone says, well, we can't build one today, why? So think about that. The wisest people are living today. We have more therapists, more healers, more answers to all problems. And whatever problem you think there is, whether it be a desert salamander or finding new planets to live on, tens of thousands of people are already working on this. And you can join them or come up with something of your own, or just support them with a little money, I'm someone that saves dimes and quarters religiously. I mean, dimes and quarters religiously. At the end of the year, I usually have several $100s in a jar. I didn't even miss it. Then I can divide it up and support some group I believe in. You can at least do that. In fact, studies have been shown that spare change could change the world and solve all the problems. The cost estimate for all the problems in the world are not that great. They really aren't. They've been calculated by supercomputers. And the fact is, spare change could do it alone. Interesting, isn't it? So the future paradigm is, as you've said, life is getting easier. Solutions are getting easier. If you think things are getting tougher, that means that's a sign to you to say you're still in the old paradigm, because that was the old paradigm. Things should be getting easier. You should expect them to get easier, and you should operate at an easier level. Think about it. So if you think things are so tough, check your paradigm. This is the paradigm shift. One of the things I was told to look for in the future is that money has to be spiritualized or brought up in its consciousness. And we're beginning to see these sort of things, but I was told to look for one day Fortune 500 magazine to see an ascended master, an enlightened being on the cover. It's going to happen. It's beginning. We have great philanthropists now, but an enlightened being who's a multi-billionaire leading the way, these things are going to happen. So money isn't bad. Money's just green energy. Right now the old paradigm says I need all of it because it's still a survival issue for the richest man in the world, as it is for the poorest man in the world. It's still survival issues about this. Who needs 100 billion in the bank? I mean, what for? Great, we have the greatest philanthropists ever living today, and we have the youngest billionaires coming up all the time. Look at the Facebook, look at Bill Gates. He was the youngest in his day. So, you're going to see teenage billionaires here, and they're going to be the new paradigm. So it's one of the signs I was told to look for, an enlightened being on the cover of the Fortune 500. Interesting, isn't it? This is what's really going on in the world. What you're seeing in the media is the Maya, the illusion. This is what everybody's concerned about on planet Earth, fairness. Fairness. Remember when bullying wasn't a subject? Yeah, it wasn't even a subject a few years ago. Now it's being addressed. All of these issues, fairness. And this is what starts leveling us out now, and this is what saves the middle class, is that we're willing to do something about fairness, and it should be fair for all. What we have now is a huge division. So don't worry about if you're one of the 99.9%. We are the ocean. They are the fish. And so many people are becoming much more enlightened about their money now. And many corporations are not evil. They're doing good things as best they can. But there's been one major problem in all of this. There's always been a few recurring dangers to watch out for, and it's been this. Historically, from caveman days through Egypt to the present, and that is kings, priests, and thieves. Always the big problem. And they especially thrive when things are going really well, Things are really going very, very well. This is Vanderbilt, considered a big thief of his day, making all that money and paying people hardly nothing, and all the suffering that people went through to make him rich. Priests, always been a problem. Kings, a big problem. But how does that translate to today? It translates to this. Who are the new kings? And who are the priests? It's our politicians are like these high priests in these temples. And people sitting around this table is the G8 meeting. These leaders on a world level making decisions about us and not telling us about a lot of them. You see, these are the high priests of our times. And of course the thieves, this is obvious, isn't it? Wall Street. Yeah. speculation, derivatives. These are the thieves that steal the middle class. And so far, they haven't learned any lessons at all. No lessons at all have been taught to them by our leaders. Interesting, isn't it? I don't want to get too political, but this is what's very important. What pulls us out of this is the next great step in you personally, and that is the next step is something only you can do as an individual. Only you. No one can do it for you. The Dalai Lama, even though he would love to, can't do it for you. The greatest shaman in the world cannot do it for you. It's called self-initiation. The next step is self-initiation. And again, self-initiation leads to self-government, the only government that ever really works. And the more people we get out of survival and into self-government, the better, So the next step is self-initiation. I tried to teach this, self-initiation. In fact, I had a famous promoter book me. I was going to do my very first self-initiation workshop. And I thought it was going to be the best of my life. And we booked this big place, and usually I get a big crowd, And I showed up that day, and no one showed up, not even the promoter. And, whoa, I guess I'm getting a lesson about self-initiation. It goes another way. It doesn't go in like a big class, So, but I went on with my self-initiation. So the workshop was for me. The only workshop where no one showed up, not even the promoter showed up. So self-initiation is an interesting thing. What's interesting is fundamentalists can fill stadiums. Self-initiates and individuals don't do that. So it's an interesting new paradigm to think about. There are probably more of us than them. They just look big because they all crowd into birds of a feather, flock together, water seeks its own level. And because there is no general plan, there is no plan for the universe, it's quite wide open to all living forms, that we are the plan. Whatever you give the meaning to your life is the meaning of life. And that should be sacred and really highly spiritual to you. If you give no meaning to your life, it has no meaning to anyone else or the universe, in fact. Humans, although, give meaning to everything. We name even the atoms. We name every star we can see. We are such geniuses at giving meanings to things. So the real meaning of life is what do you want to add to it? What is your meaning? What does your life mean? What does your money mean? What does this world mean to you? Give that to us. That's our gift back to the universe, is to literally give meaning to all of this. And it's all sorting out, because there's been many meetings over the years, and it's all sorting out into something that's very interesting. We're all beginning to start saying the same thing, aren't we? Interesting. Many cultures, all of us are beginning to say the same thing, and the big word is oneness. Oneness, oneness, oneness. We're starting to see the Gaia perspective. We're starting to see the whole earth as a living being. This gets very important. The evolution of Gaia through collective intelligence is something that's absolutely amazing to study and look into. Collective intelligence means that every one of us are adding to the intelligence of the planet with every life that we live. Every plant is actually, the evolution of every microbe, the evolution of every animal, evolution of every single human, whether your life was great or small. We're adding to the intelligence of the planet. And here's a